it's changed a lot. You know, originally it was me and Chris being stupid, like really inappropriately stupid, like some of the stuff that we talked about. I rejoiced in that moment of total unsuitability. You know, we did a lot of shit that was very inappropriate to the max. And I think it made people feel comfortable, especially who are real sloppy in early recovery, who were out there for so long and like felt so disenfranchised and didn't have people. To hear two guys who obviously were addicts or are addicts and were now in recovery and having fun, that meant something to them.
Yeah.
Now,
stories are powerful.
Welcome to the Rise, Recover, Live podcast, brought to you by The Phoenix. This is a space where people impacted by substance use can come to share their story of strength and resilience, get open and honest, and inspire hope and build community through shared experience.
We'll be talking to people in our community on their own recovery journey and shine a light on the topic of recovery in all its forms. Maybe you'll hear some of your story in theirs.
Let's show the world that together we rise, recover, and live.
What's up, everybody? It is your hosts of the Rise, Recover, Live podcast here, Bryce III, he, him pronouns.
And Liz McKean, she, her pronouns.
And this week we have a crazy different episode. We were on location. Where were we?
We live from New York.
We got the opportunity, the privilege to interview Dave from the wildly successful podcast, the Dopey Podcast.
That's right. Yeah. And we, like Bryce said, we really just got into conversation because it was so fun and comfortable to talk to Dave, which is one of the reasons that he is such a great host of his show. And with that, you know, we didn't do a super long intro. So just wanted to hop in here to do that now. So Dave's show is called Dopey. Dave is a person recovering from substance use disorder based in New York City. His show was formerly co-hosted by his friend Chris, who he mentions in this episode, also a person in recovery. And Dave has described the show as being about drugs, addiction, and dumb shit. And it started out as a comedy show and evolved over the course of his recovery, evolving into a show that has really helped a lot of people.
And so it was essential that we got him on the show. And kind of find out he's a great dude. And the way the conversation took off, we just got straight into it. And a bit of a disclaimer too. On Rise, Recover, Live, we tend to keep it maybe PG-13 plus. You know, every now and then you'll get a S or a F-bomb just because, you know, we don't want to censor people's expressions, but we do kind of keep it a little tamer than maybe we kept it on this episode. Mm-hmm. And it was just really just us being us. And I think it was a worthwhile conversation. It was a dope conversation to be a part of. I felt uplifted once I left, and I'm excited to share this with you all. But if a lot of cursing tends to turn you off, like, just know that it's okay to skip this episode and come back on the next one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you hear this and you love it and want to hear more from Dave, you absolutely can. We'll have his show obviously linked in the show notes. And this was really cool because it's always fun to interview someone who has a podcast, who's usually asking the questions, you know, and get some stories from him. And we got some cool stories from Bryce. It was cool to see that energy. So yeah, I'm really excited for everyone to hear this. Excited just for this to be the beginning of our podcast relationship. Yeah, we can't wait to share him with you.
Mm-hmm. And so with all that being said, enjoy today's episode of Rise, Recover, Live.
I mean, for the longest time, we didn't use our last names with Dopey at all. When we started the show, we didn't want... I started with my friend Chris, and we did not use our last names because we were scared to, and because we were also 12-step people. Mm-hmm, yeah. So Chris was scared to use his last name because he was in school to get a PhD in psychology, and he was scared that people would hear Dopey and hear the crazy stuff that he admitted to doing, and it would mess up his chances of getting licensed. I was scared of using my last name because I had a daughter, and I was scared that if you looked up our last name on Google, you'd find heroin. And Chris didn't get to live to the point where I was outed. on Mark Maron is this famous podcaster and actor guy, and he had me on his show, and he used my last name, and I was like, oh, nobody uses my last name, and he'd be like, well, you're an idiot if you don't want to use your last name if you're trying to make a career in being a professional public person. And I was like, okay, so I've used it since then.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like I remember that moment where I went from not wanting anyone to know who I was, if I was going to tell my story, if I was in a sober space, to the moment when it was just like, oh, actually, this is something I'm proud of, and it's actually part of who I am now, and that's cool.
Well, with
that's different. I understand that's different than what you're talking about.
No, it's similar. I don't think it's that different. I think with 12-step stuff, the tradition, I think it's the 10th tradition is to not promote said 12-step fellowship in press, radio, and film, to be anonymous, because let's say a lot of people in 12-step say they're not proud of their recovery because they didn't do it. It was God that did it for them. I am proud of my recovery, but people, like, I'm not saying the name of my 12-step group as to honor the tradition. It's a big loophole. It's like kind of bullshit in the tradition. But the idea is that if somebody got sober in a 12-step group and they told their story and then they went out, the idea is it makes the group look bad. You know, but I am proud of my recovery. I'm kind of ambivalent about using my last name. Like, it's like, unless Dopey gets really big, in which case it'll be fun to be famous. Dopey's not really big. Dopey's like a large insect in the podcasting world.
A large insect. Which insect would it be? Like
the one on your
a praying
socks.
mantis?
It definitely would be a praying mantis. And the reason we put praying mantises on the socks was right before Chris died. I like when we started the show, I was estranged from my wife, we never got married, but we had a daughter together. And I lived in Manhattan and she lived in Long Island. And then we got back together and I moved to Long Island. And then she got pregnant again and we got a house. And we had the baby and we got the house in May. In June, my best friend Todd died and overdosed. And in July, Chris died and overdosed. But in between those things, I had started making a garden in our house to grow vegetables. And there were all these little buggers kind of like eating the plants. And I always wanted to have a garden. I grew up in Manhattan. I never had been able to do it. And I'm reading about how to get rid of little buggers. And they're like, the greatest pesticide is praying mantises. So I was like, cool. So I ordered like some thing of praying mantis eggs, like this giant thing of praying mantis eggs.
What? You can do that?
Yes. And I put it in like, like it was like a little kind of terrarium that's not designed for praying mantises. It's probably designed for a lizard or like a tarantula or like a travel hamster terrarium or some shit. It's like this big. It's like a foot. It's tiny. You try travel with pets and the top is kind of mesh so the animals could breathe. So I put the praying mantis eggs in that thing. And I don't know why I put it in the attic of the house. And then I forgot about it. and the last, I think the last episode that Chris was alive for, I told him this story and that I forgot about it. And then I remembered, but by the time I remembered, there were praying mantises everywhere. And my wife got really upset. And I told her the story because I thought it was the funniest thing that ever happened. And she didn't think it was funny. And then she went to her friend's house and she was pissed. And she told them the story and they thought it was funny. And she got a little bit less pissed. I told Chris the whole story and he was too high to comprehend it. And then he was dead the next week. And the praying mantis became a symbol of the show because of that. But I buy praying mantis eggs every year.
That's wild.
I mean, what does that say to the durability of a praying mantis that they don't need? They could just be put in the attic.
I was just gonna say, I thought it was gonna be a much more tragic praying mantis story.
They grow up and mature and are grown praying mantises. What you forgot about them?
Well, exactly. But I mean, the things about praying mantises, the most famous thing is that the female praying mantis eats the male praying mantis' head after sex.
Rips it right off. Yep.
And then since all this dopey fucking praying mantis shit has happened, like people are sending me videos of like praying mantises eating hummingbirds. And
Oh my God.
Yeah, like if you Google praying mantis fights with like other animals, and they're pretty monstrous. And praying mantises, they're kind of, once they get big, they're scary. Like they're cool from afar, but if you have one flying near your head,
I've literally like, I'm a bug dude though. Like I came up around bugs. So the last time I seen a praying mantis was in Florida. And it was one that was on the wall. It was like on the glass of a store. And, I went to kind of like help it down from the glass and put it in a bush. And they just seemed so serene.
Right. It's got a real serene praying thing. And it's also got that bugged out alien thing. It's so alien. Imagine a big one. That would be like a really big one. Yeah, like a 6 foot one.
That'd be kind of insane.
Terrifying.
Yeah, that'd be kind of insane.
But so that's why the praying mantis is on the Dopey side. And that's the large insect that in the world of podcasts, of Joe Rogan's being the whale and, Mark Maron's being elephant, Dopey's definitely a praying mantis.
The praying mantis.
Maybe more like an ant, but the praying mantis is me trying to have some kind of pride in what we do.
Okay. I can see that.
You with me?
That. Yeah, I'm with you.
I appreciate it.
And so, will your praying mantis ever get to 6 feet, to 8 feet, to 12 feet?
Listen, it's not up to me.
Yeah.
I can only do my best. No, I'm trying. I am so into it. When I think we probably have a lot in common. Right, like because I was a musician and I had ideas about making things and being vested in being creative. But when I was a kid, and I never. By the way, I just want to make something clear. My computer's covered with stickers. I'm embarrassed of that. I'm not a cover my computer in stickers person. Listen, I had a guy who was helping me with video stuff, and he was like, "You should put stickers all over the computer for the video." And I don't know why I listened to him, and I'm embarrassed because I know you're judging me. I could tell. Bryce, like, this is the kind of guy that puts stickers. You're just assuming that's true because I did.
I mean, you just got done saying that we're alike, and I got stickers all over my laptop, so I'm gonna cover your laptop with stickers.
You're
dude.
cooler than me. I'm not. I can't live with it. I can't live with it, but I live with it. You know what I'm saying? My point is, when I was a kid and I made TV shows, or all I did creatively in my life is I got to produce a couple TV shows and I got to make a bunch of music, and then I became a heroin addict, and I had an idea that I could write a TV show or a movie or a book. But I didn't do anything. I mean, I wrote some songs, but really all I did was get high. And when then I made this weird thing at my job, and I always wanted to make stuff. And when I got into Dopey, it became my band. And Chris and I, like, we spoke every day about Dopey being something, but we also played chicken as who could care less. You know what I mean? Like that egomaniac in the center of the universe kind of thing. Like,
but whatever. Right, like, a lot of that.
Both of us, well, he would say, Chris would say, he'd be like, it's whatevs. He would say that about everything. Meanwhile, he'd call every one of his friends to leave a review on iTunes. I wouldn't tell anybody. The difference between me and Chris is I would write like Rolling Stone magazine, and Chris would tell his friends. I wouldn't tell my friends, and Chris wouldn't try to contact big publications. I'm doing literally anything I can think of at this point to get Dopey to the next place. So when will it be a 6 foot praying mantis? I don't know if it ever will, but we're doing good. We're coming up on 10 million downloads, which is I'm very proud of. Like, we've done some good shows. Like, I'm excited to be in a partnership with the Phoenix and get to go to New Orleans. Like DopeyCon, the fourth iteration of DopeyCon is going to happen. Like, I'm very proud of what the show is, and more than anything, that it's fun and it's listenable and people like it, and I still like to make it.
More than that, I mean, not to minimize any of that because that's enormous, but I've been on a Zoom with you, and I was like in a weird space, so I had my camera off and everything, but like there were people talking about how they were sober because of Dopey, how like this community was the first community they felt like they belonged to.
Why didn't you tell me you were on the Zoom?
Well, my name was on there. I could not turn on my camera or my thing. I was in Palm Springs, so I wasn't able to do that. And also, I was very afraid, to be perfectly honest. But it was beautiful to see these people that like just knew you from the very start,
right,
and had been with you from the start, and were like literally tell like stories of how they thought about using, and then were able to hop into a Zoom or listen to your podcast. And I don't know, man, like that's a giant praying mantis to me, that there's people that are out there that are still alive and breathing, and you had something to do with that.
Yeah, I have a hard time with that aspect of it, because, and I say this all the time, and I mean it, but it changes. The show is not meant to help anybody. Like, the show is meant to be a good show. Like, it is not meant, like, I love that the side effect, it's like the side effect of exercise is you get in shape.
Mm-hmm.
Another side effect of exercise is you get endorphins.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, like, if you play basketball, if you like to play basketball, you play because you want to have fun, but then you get to be in good shape and feel good, and win. You know what I mean? Like, with Dopey, I just wanted it to be a good show. The fact that some people have found recovery out of it, it's humbling, and it scares me a little bit, because I know that Dopey cannot keep anybody sober.
Of course not. Yeah, no, absolutely not. But it can inspire hope and make people feel like they're less alone, and that can like open the door to that next thing. Like, same thing with like exercising, like I got endorphins. Now I'm not happy for the rest of my life. Maybe I'm happy enough, like after that basketball game, that I'm going to be nice to my kids, and like there's just like ripple, 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 ripple. So you are maybe like you're a ripple. You're causing ripples.
So and because like, what's a good show to you? So you said like, Dopey is meant to be a good show first and foremost. So one, I'm curious as to like, what constitutes a good show for you?
That I can listen to it and not be disgusted. That's it. For me, I just like, so that when I listen to it, or if I watch it, it just doesn't go anywhere that I really don't feel good about it going. And it's all personal. It's like there are some things, like I'm listening to this podcast right now about the Knicks. It's called I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say the name of it, because I don't think they're that good. I think they like take all these weird pauses, like the dude's looking shit up while the other dude isn't saying anything. And I'm like, how are you guys making this podcast like this? And like, there are just some things that are like, I don't need anything to be great. It just can't make me feel bad.
Yeah.
So that's what constitutes a good show to me.
Yeah.
If it doesn't make me feel bad, it's good enough.
That's a bar.
Right. Exactly.
And then like, I think because I was unaware of the Dopey podcast before it was brought to my attention through the Phoenix. And like, so how would you, for somebody who's never heard the podcast, never has been aware of the community that has been cultivated, like how would you describe the Dopey Podcast?
Well, originally it was meant to be the podcast on drugs, addiction, and dumb shit. And originally it was just me and Chris. I mean, we didn't have mics. We talked into the computer. First 50 episodes, we used the onboard mic. We were like this. Like, that's how we did the show. 50 episodes like that. Someone was like, no one's going to listen to the show if you don't have mics. And people were listening. But I would describe the show, it's changed a lot. Originally it was me and Chris being stupid, like really inappropriately stupid. Like some of the stuff that we talked about. I rejoiced in that moment of total unsuitability. We did a lot of shit that was very inappropriate to the max. And I think it made people feel comfortable, especially who are real sloppy in early recovery, who were out there for so long and like felt so disenfranchised and didn't have people to hear two guys who obviously were addicts or are addicts and were now in recovery and having fun. That meant something to them.
Yeah.
Now, over the course of making the show, I've been making this show since 2015, right? It's 2023 now. And I mean, I think the first death in Dopey was around 2016, and it was a listener named Troy. And then the second death in Dopey was pretty short thereafter, and it was a really close friend of Chris's who I had become friends with, and his name was David Marshall. And David Marshall owned a gym in Connecticut. He was the most like super handsome and ridiculously in shape and loved Dopey. And he died, and that kind of like, all the deaths affected me. I was a heroin addict, but for whatever reason, people weren't dying around me when I was using. It wasn't until I got sober that people started dying. And the show's voice changed with each death. I think the show's voice changed a little bit more until my friend Todd died. And when my friend Todd died, I was totally shook. You know, I was rattled and I was not in a good place. Like I was crazy upset. Because this is a guy I had met in college and I had used with and lived with. And I lived with him here. I lived with him in California. I drove across country with him a number of times. He's one of my very best friends. And
you had a microphone for him, I remember, didn't you? Because he wanted to come. He wanted to be part of the show.
Yeah. He wanted to be on the show, but I didn't want to have him on the show. We let him call into the show because he was never sober. But I had bought a 4-track board with the idea that, but he would never have done it.
Yeah.
Like that he could get a mic. Anyway, after he died, I think Chris was using when Todd died. And I didn't know Chris was using. And Chris couldn't believe that I wanted to talk about recovery or be less laissez-faire about addiction. It cut me to the core when Todd died. And it made me angry that Chris couldn't see it, but I think Chris was using. And then when Chris died, I like lost my mind and I got really angry and we couldn't make the show the same way. So it's a lot of stupidity in the show still. It's a lot of fun still, but there's way more recovery built into it. We need to acknowledge the other side of the coin that, yeah, we all used and drank and had fun at some point or we never would have done it. But there's so much danger that needs to be acknowledged. And we've had a ton of other deaths since then, you know, and I could rattle off a bunch of names, and people keep dying, you know what I mean? So like, and that's going to keep happening when you make a show about addiction. Yeah. So now the show is like, there's some fun, quirky stuff. There's usually a guest who might be famous, or maybe they wrote a book, or maybe they have a crazy story. Like last week, I had this guy on who just was a crazy drug addict who stole a lot of stuff. And he was like the bouncer in a shooting gallery in Philadelphia. He's a crazy guy. And we've had like famous people. We've had like Jamie Lee Curtis and Mark Maron, Danny Trejo from Machete, DMC, Killer Mike, whatever. We've had a bunch of people. And sometimes they're famous and sometimes they're not. But the show is fun. It's meant to be fun. I think my biggest influence is Howard Stern show. Like I've always loved Howard Stern, but what I love about Howard Stern is that if you're a Howard Stern fan, I mean, he's very shocking. That's his whole thing. But the thing about a real Howard Stern fan, I think, is you feel like he's your friend. And you feel like you're with friends when you listen. Yeah. And I knew that's what Dopey had. Like me and Chris made the show, and I listened to it driving around Long Island, and I was like, I don't know if this is good, but it's comfortable. And I think people will feel comfortable with us. Yeah. Like they're amongst friends. And I think that's what the show is.
Yeah, so like in that space creation for people to feel comfortable in producing that, like, is there elements of that are cathartic to you to be able to show up and contribute to? Like, it is, so like when I make a song, I lead with, it's got to be a good song. Like, if it's not a good song, like, and it's preachy, or it's like you can't vibe with it, then it's not, you're destroying the contribution to the platform of music, right? Like, I want to contribute to the culture. It's got to be a good song. And like that process is like an art form that allows for catharsis, that like on bad days I can write and I can create and produce, and it kind of gets those things out of me. So does like producing the show for you, like, does it do anything for like your personal recovery, or is it cathartic for you? Like, is it your creation?
I think it's cathartic in its making something, and every week, I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a writer, and she doesn't get to make something every week. Like, to the fact that I haven't missed a week making this show, I think I always minimize Dopey's effect on my recovery. because I'm very involved in 12-step, and it doesn't really, my recovery isn't about Dopey. It is, I do participate in a 12-step program. I have a sponsor, I have a sponsee, I go to meetings, I do that stuff. But I'm realizing, even just listening to you ask me the question, I think the endorphins that I get from making something every week keeps me happy, keeps me, and like, I won't put a show out if it's not good enough. You know, I won't put out a total stinker.
Yeah.
You know, I'll do whatever I can to I will not put out a total.
So you axed shows, you don't just air everything.
No, yeah. I won't put out one that's not good. Or at least okay.
Yeah.
That's my bar is okay. If it's okay, it's good. Right,
bar.
Right, exactly. 100%. But that's fine with me. I can live with that. If I'm doing a show every week, you know, I like hearing about other people's recovery. I like hearing about other people's addiction. What I would like to figure out how to do is add other stuff to it. Like, I always want, like, how do you mainstream it? Like, how do you get other things in there? Like, how do you get, like, my dad, I have my dad on all the time, and my dad is not an addict, and my dad is not recovery. And I kind of like beat a dead horse with it, where I blame him for me being a heroin addict, which I always think is funny. People aren't sure if that's funny or not, but I always think it's funny. And like, he talks about fantasy basketball, and he went on a cruise to Antarctica. Like, so like, and then in the beginning of the show, I might talk about gardening, or I might talk about the Knicks, or I might talk about a show that I hate or like. So like, I try to like feel like, what else can I bring into it, so it's not just straight preachy or straight debauchery. So you have like a bunch of different fun stuff.
Yeah, I think you know, there's elements of you. Like, there's people that fuck with you because you're you, right? And like, how mainstream do you want to make it? Because like, the community that has been cultivated from what you've created has been, because it's so freaking niche.
I know.
You know?
It's like, but I'm a fame whore. The audience knows that. The audience knows. Like, I want it to be like the thing, like that connects entertainment and addiction and recovery. I want it to be that thing. And as long as we honor the core of it, I think the core audience will stick around and be happy we made it.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Well, you are a person who is, you're very comfortable to be around, just like as a person. Like, the moment we met you, I can, speak for myself, but I'm sure I'm not the only one who's felt this way. Like, you just have like a welcoming, just vibe about you. You smile, you like shake our hand, like
Bryce
you
was
lean
very
in.
uncomfortable though.
I
made Bryce feel very uncomfortable.
No, I'm fucking with you. Yeah, immediately comfortable. It's like, okay, this is my people.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and like that's just like who you are as a person. And then when it comes to the show, like, you let the person who comes on be who they are as a person. Like, and that's a powerful thing. Like, not everybody has that ability to like create that space just without even necessarily like trying, just like being so like welcoming. That's a big deal. That allows you to be a bridge. And then when it comes to like the big, the stories and the debauchery and stuff like that, I don't know, man. Like, some of the shows you've talked about, like Howard Stern, for example, he didn't get to be big. And I guess, I don't know if mainstream's the right word, but like by trying to like, I don't know, by trying, he just was exactly who he is. And I think you've got that.
Well, I think he tried really hard. I think he also, one of the reasons that he was such an inspiration to me, besides the feeling of being among friends, was that he had a guy on his show, this comedian named Artie Lang. And Artie Lang was this really horrible drug addict and alcoholic, and he would tell horrible stories about his addiction. And I was like, that's really was like kind of the kickoff to Dopey, was that idea. And I also think, like, I want to feel comfortable. Yeah. So I make people feel comfortable. But also, it's some like dope fiend manipulation shit. You know? It just is. We all do that. That's what it's like, it's built in to alcoholics and addicts. Like, we're people pleasers, we're manipulators. And it's, what's the outcome? Sometimes it's one thing and sometimes it's something else. For me at this point, it's like, I want people to like me. Mm-hmm. I want people to feel comfortable. I want like this, but it's like, again, we were talking.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I think like recovery like allows for us to be aware. So like, there was a time for me at least where like there was no awareness around these things, right? And they were just kind of going automatically, they were on autopilot. And so like now with the awareness and with like the actions of recovery behind that, like I can use these powers for good, you know?
Absolutely.
Like how you came in, you let the guy in the elevator first, you came down to come grab us. Like like the energy that you gave was somebody who serves. And that service, like I'm aware that I serve. It's almost like a selflessness, like, because I know I gotta serve. I can tell you this funny story about this stolen umbrella.
Tell the story.
So it was raining the other day, and I went to go to, I got the Hershey's thing down in Times Square. So it's like a Hershey store. You can go get these big Reese's cups. So I went to go get my Reese's cup because I'm a Reese's cup fanatic. And I get this big Reese's cup, and this guy is walking through, and he's got these Hershey's umbrellas, and they're like this big, and he's just like, somebody asked me for these for free, and I was like, haha, I'm selling them. So I'm like, okay, cool. And then so I asked the girl who's making my chocolate, I'm like, you know how much them umbrellas that he had were? She like, yeah, they're probably like $16. But if you go next door to the hotel next door, they just giving them out for free. You just go over there and get one for free. So I'm like, okay. So I get my Reese's.
How big is the Reese's?
The Reese's is like
ridiculous.
Big as your head. Yeah, it was crazy. I don't think that humans should eat that much like oily peanut butter.
Did you finish it?
I did not. I had like 5 finger scoops, and then my stomach was like, bro,
and you threw it away?
What are you? No, it's still it's still sitting on the counter now.
Oh no, you don't have a refrigerator.
I'm scared to open the box. That's what's crazy. Like, so I head next door. And I already know I'm on some finesse time. I know what time I'm on. You know what I'm saying? Because the way she told me like it's finesse time. Like they give them away for free over there. So I'm like, okay, I'm not staying over there. Why would they give me an umbrella for free? So I go in. There's a guy there and behind the counter. And I'm like, hey, man, I heard y'all got free umbrellas. And he was like, yeah, what's your room number? And then
that's the moment.
In hindsight, I'm thinking I could have finessed and just told him my room number and my hotel, and it would have still been truthful.
Right.
But this is recovery at work. Like I'm intentional about like the way that I'm finessing right now. So, but recovery kicked in and made me say like, I'm not even staying here, bro. Like, I just want an umbrella. It's wet outside. Like, can I get one? He's like, oh, no, man, I can't get you. There's a guy standing out there, and I would have to get him one. And I'm like, I put in my backpack. Nobody gonna see what's going on. He's like, yeah, but, they account for it. Basically, he was telling me everything that somebody who's an employee of an organization would have to say so they could just get rid of this guy who's trying to get a handout. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm like, all right, I appreciate you. Because I've learned that you don't get what you don't ask for, right? So I did it, whatever. I asked for it. It didn't work. So I walk out. You know them things that they push the suitcases on?
Hey.
There's 2 of them sitting on either side of the door of this hotel. And there's umbrellas hung on. There's about 3 umbrellas, 3 brand new umbrellas just hanging on them. And in a split second, I'm like, I look back at my man's at the desk. I look at the umbrellas. I'm like, yoink. And then I just walk and I open the umbrella and I'm like, oh yeah, this is New York. I'm in New York, baby. Like, I'm edgy,
stealing umbrellas. I got a big Reese's at
I'm
home.
walking on the edge. And then I get back to the hotel and that thing kicked in like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like I did something that I shouldn't have. Like nobody's here. Like, there's no mom or dad or no policeman or anything, but it's just like this conscious that like, oh shit. Like you did something you shouldn't have done. And I'm sitting with it, and I'm looking at the umbrella. Now I'm sitting in my room just like, you're a thief. You fucking thief. I'm like,
the umbrella's calling you out at home.
So I end up calling her, and I'm like, Liz, I stole an umbrella. And it's just...
What did Liz say? Liz, what'd you say?
She was like, you want me to make you feel better about it?
Yeah, because I know you, and I know you don't always want the thing that immediately I'm like wanting to do, which is, that's my superpower. Like, I can make you feel better. I can make you feel good
so you could co-sign him on his umbrella
right, and I can be very convincing, and I would mean it with all my heart because I love you and I know your heart, so, but what but I need to ask. So I was like, do you want me to feel better? Or you just need to like talk about it? And he's like, yeah, don't make me feel better. I think I still maybe tried to a little bit.
So the umbrella is still in my room.
What?
I haven't.
Oh, he has not stopped talking about that umbrella.
I haven't given it back yet. I'm trying to figure out a way how to like put it back on a hanger. I've walked by and there's umbrellas over there on the hanger. So before I leave, I plan on putting it back on the hanger. And maybe I'll get my karma back. But yeah, that's just one of those things. But it's like there's this
think about that guy in the rain that didn't get his umbrella. Just go put it back.
He was standing next to the umbrellas too, so he's just not a thief, and I was. And it's like, in all jokes aside, like it's this inherent awareness of how it is that I show up that allows for me to contribute to the spaces that I'm in that I didn't have when I was in active addiction that I have now.
Totally.
And even though like I'm aware of it and I know that I'm doing these things so that I can be a better person and so that I can inherently like have good karma or whatever it is, it's like me, because like addiction, alcoholism is like I'm self-consumed. There's a neurotic nature to it. The outcome is still the same. Like I'm still showing up for other people. I'm still seeking to be honest. I'm still holding the door. I'm still introducing myself. I'm still creating a space for people to feel comfortable in. So regardless of what the motivation is, at the end of the day, you're still making the world a better place.
I think you need to return the umbrella, Bryce.
I'm going to.
Do you want to hear a funny story?
Yeah.
Real quick. It was raining, right? And I go to, and I'm into buying umbrellas. Like if it's raining, like I'm like, I have money, I'm sober, I could buy an umbrella. What the fuck? Because in the old days,
rub it in my face.
No. You could buy a fucking umbrella.
I was gonna buy the umbrella. I was gonna buy it.
No disrespect whatsoever. You're gonna return the umbrella, and that's that. Like, yeah. But I get your story. I'm with you. It's just weird. So I go to this Rite Aid to buy an umbrella because I like umbrellas. I like the long ones. I like walking down the street and using it like a cane, like clicking the umbrella. I'm into that kind of thing.
Do you do a little spin like Singing in the Rain?
A little bit. I like it. So I go to this, it was Rite Aid or something on 34th and 8th. It's pouring. Place is packed. It's like school trip or something, packed with kids. And I go in there and I go to look at the rack of umbrellas. And I don't like the look of most of the umbrellas. And then I see in the thing, fucking Burberry umbrella. Like real Burberry. A real Burberry umbrella at Rite Aid. And I take it out. It doesn't have a tag on it. It's like it doesn't belong there. And I'm thinking, I should just take this fucking shit. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't fucking belong there, But I'm much more sober than you, Bryce. I go to the manager and I said, dude, I said, this umbrella was in your umbrella case. He goes, so? And I said, I want to buy it. I said, how much do you want to sell it to me for? He said, just take it. Get out of here. So I took it. It was like a $300 umbrella.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Did somebody just like
I don't know why
set
would that
their
happen?
umbrella there?
Why would that happen?
I don't know.
That umbrella's gone now, though.
The umbrella god smiled on you
somebody
that day.
Yeah, Bryce probably was fucking stealing. No, I listen, I appreciate the umbrella story. And I was such a thief. You know what I mean? Like I would take anything and I'd love it. I remember every time I went to the supermarket, I would steal a yellow pepper and the golden pepper. I'd put it in my pocket just so I could come out with it. And I would steal, I would steal CDs when I was a kid. I would steal wherever I went. I loved to steal. I loved getting away with it. My wife still likes to steal. She likes it. She likes to, like, if something's on the thing, she could put it aside and not have to pay for it. She likes it. And I love finessing in those situations. And I finesse as much as I can. And sometimes I might swipe the umbrella too. Like, I'm not always fucking asking. In the Rite Aid, I'm scared of getting busted. I've been busted in a Rite Aid for stealing cookies.
They don't mess around. And they got cameras.
A couple times.
In sobriety or no?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I appreciate that look on your face, though. 100%. No, I love the umbrella story.
No judgment.
I don't think I've stolen anything in recovery. I don't think so. But I might have I'm sure I've finessed a bunch of stuff. Like, that's not straight thieving. Those are like the umbrellas that people get to take when they leave the hotel. There's people and then they put them back.
That sounds like justification.
It is.
To me.
I feel bad. I don't want to make you feel guilty. You just return the umbrella. Where I'm like I try to be like super straight as the grocery cart. Like, I feel like if I'm not putting the grocery cart back in the thing, I'm not even sober. I'm like fucking using.
Oh, no.
So I've evolved. So it began like that. And then it was one time I went into a Kroger, which the grocery store is by me. I don't know if y'all got Krogers out here.
I've heard of it.
No,
we don't.
They were like piloting this thing where you go in and as you get your groceries, like you scan them. And so by the time you leave, you don't have to go in the checkout.
Yeah.
But then I thought of the implications, like if that's the case, then cashiers are looking to be obsolete. Like people are losing their jobs because of this. So I'm like, does me put my cart back in the cart holder, does that take away the jobs of the cart boys? Am I doing the cart boys' job? And then so now I don't always put the cart back.
Bryce, that is the worst justification I've ever heard.
This is the Bryce is bad show.
Yeah, I think this is
all coming out.
I think this talk is really good for you, Bryce. I think it's all coming out. And then I tell a story that makes you even feel worse. I'm not even going to say it.
Oh my goodness.
When I was a kid, I would go to McDonald's, right, and I would leave the tray. And then someone would be like, Dave, put your tray back. I'd be like, no. That's somebody else. Somebody has to get paid to do that.
Yeah.
Bryce, come on.
I think it's the energy. Like with the energy.
I'm going to break it down for a second.
All right, bust it down.
The guy who deals with the carts goes to the spot and just brings them in.
Yeah.
That's all he has to do. He doesn't have to go find them. He has to take them from the spot where sober people bring them and then bring them back to the store. He's not the cart shepherd. He's just and the guys by my supermarket, it's called Stop and Shop. The guys who deal with the carts are mean. I think they might be mentally disturbed, deranged. Something's wrong with their heads. Like, because I say hi, they don't say hi. They don't want to talk to me. And I'm always putting it back. And they're still nasty. I think I don't know. There's something wrong there. But that's two things. And when we sat down, Bryce informed me that it's 10 years. I said, oh, you're much more sober than me. But apparently not so,
Apparently
Bryce.
not, Dave. Apparently not. Not today.
This is great.
One day at a time.
Thank you. Listen, fucking honesty is the best.
That's what's kept me this way. That's what's allowed me to grow. Is being honest, being transparent, having the space that encourages that honesty, and being able to laugh about it. That laughter is one of the biggest pieces of medicine. Like in some of the most devastating shit that I've experienced, like there's like sad, and then there's depressed, and then there's suicidal, and then there's like these lows and lows. But every time, like there's a bottom that I crack, and there's a chuckle. And it's like, that's when I get to the bottom of it. And when I'm able to find that humor, that's where the healing comes from. And so like to be able to laugh and to be able to talk with people that understand the nature of like what it feels like to steal a fucking umbrella in Times Square and have like guilt-ridden consciousness around it, it's and great. Be able to laugh about it and pull out stories that are similar that involve even more expensive umbrellas. Yes, sir. Like I found my space. I found my community.
But I mean like, and that's the whole point of Dopey. The whole point of Dopey, because we got a lot of controversy at different parts of the beginning of the show, and we would always say, and I liked this phrase, but I don't know if I still like it now, but we would say, we laugh, the survivors laugh. Like we got to experience this horrible thing and laugh because we survived. But then when they don't survive, is the survivor's laugh still funny? It is when you're a survivor. It is with the umbrella. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's all that. It's like shared experience. It's shared pain. It's shared hope, right? Like, because you're going to return the umbrella at the end of this thing, right?
Well, now I have to. Like, there's
the funny thing is,
you are always going to.
No. He's going to forget, and then he's going to be on the plane and umbrella. And then you're not going to know what to do with yourself. It's going to be awesome. Gosh. When you get back to the room, just bring it down.
Yeah, it's not projected to rain. I'm not going to need it tonight.
Dude, but check it out. Even if you don't, it's going to be okay. It's not like a fucking, it's not some symbol. It's okay.
Well, because that's recovery, sobriety. Like, it's not about being a perfect human being. It's not about like never doing something wrong. It's about knowing that it was wrong and then saying it, and then like, how can I fix this? Like the fact that you're a person who's like, no, man, don't make me feel better. Like, I need to feel this. Like, that's recovery. Like that. It's not, let me just push this down and not think about it. Pretend it never happened, and then I don't have to feel it. Yeah. You're like, I'm feeling it. I'm going to feel it, and then I'm going to like say it out loud because I'm going to feel other people knowing that I'm feeling it. Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah. And I mean, like also, and we're going to wrap here in a minute, but also the reason, like I'm aware of how slippery of a slope things are. You know, like I was in Starbucks today. The story continues.
God, did you steal something at Starbucks?
No, I was at the Starbucks today, and I was looking at this mug that I wanted to get my girl or my daughter. I don't know who I'm gonna give it to yet. And then so I was checking out. This guy was ringing me up, and you know, I put the cup up there. I told him I wanted the cold brew and my egg bites, and he was like, "Is this it?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then when he rung it up, and it you know, he just rung up the cold brew and the egg bites. But I had the coffee mug on the counter. So I was like, is this it? Yeah, this is it. But he didn't charge me for it.
He gave me the mug.
So yeah, I mean, basically he gave me the mug. Guy. Yeah, he was a good guy, right? So that same umbrella energy followed me right there. And it's like, oh, you have either the path A or the path B to go down. And it's like, he rang it up, gave me my receipt, and I was like, bro, you forgot my mug. And I had him ring that up extra. But that umbrella energy was still like the momentum of the umbrella energy was it's harder to show up and consciously, for me, do things that are like things that are not the greatest are easy, kind of, you know, and the momentum of those things, like you do one thing, you know, and then it's like, we on and popping, like we did that yesterday, let's just keep this going. I eat a bag of chips, you know, at whatever, at 1 o'clock in the morning yesterday, today I'm eating cookies and all type of stuff like that.
Next week you're putting liquid LSD in your eyeballs.
You know? Fucked up. You know? So it's just like, but that being conscious, being aware, contributing to spaces where there's honesty, like that, I need to, like, it's just a little harder. But once I'm on the beam, like once I'm on it, like I don't have to get back on it. You see what I'm saying?
100%. I want to tell 2 quick stories, real quick.
All right.
Go to the bagel place, right? Bagel place only takes cash. I didn't have any cash. They're like, oh, we have a cash machine in the back. I go to the cash machine in the back. There's $20 sitting there. Like somebody missed it. Do I give it to the store? No, I don't. I buy bagels with it and I feel great. Not to mention when I'm buying it for my daughter's birthday party, right? I get home with all the bagels and the cream cheese that was bought for me with stolen money out of the cash machine. And then I brag to my daughter and her friends, I got all this stuff for free.
Child, ladies and gentlemen.
So I want to make sure that I'm not Saint David over here. But then also the other day, right? This is interesting. I'm trying to get in shape. Like I haven't had, like when you talk about Reese's and you say Reese's, you got a lot of weird pronunciation things. Right? Umbrella, Reese's.
Whoa.
Listen, I'm a New Yorker. What do you want from me? But so like, I've been trying to get in shape. I'm trying not to eat Reese's and I'm trying to like fucking not eat sugar and you know, I've been, you know, it's a long way back. I walked 30 miles in the city, like some crazy, or maybe 30,000 steps, whatever. It's 12 miles. I don't know. It was a lot of walking. I don't know. I hurt my foot because I walked too much. I go to the running shoes store and they're like, these shoes are terrible. And I'm like, yeah, I need some nice shoes. And they give me, you know, I was going to buy these shoes that I couldn't stomach the way they looked, but I was like, Then they tell me that my feet are a size bigger than I think they are. So that puts me at 14. And who can buy 14s? It's like I'm embarrassed. I've been in self-deception about what size sneaker I've been wearing for years. But anyway, he's like, and I don't have socks, or I have thick socks. And I'm like, I need socks to try on the sneakers. And he gives me and I looked fucked up when I went in there. I felt like I was in like heroin withdrawal. I had this injury. I hadn't taken a shower. I was a weirdo. I didn't belong in the runner store. He's looking at me like a fucking heroin addict. Like I had that feeling going on and I was like, I need socks. And he gives me this look like he thinks I want him to fucking lend me socks. I was like, I'll buy the socks. Just give me some socks. And he gives me these fancy thin running socks. I was like, how much are those socks? He goes, $18. I was like, give me cheaper socks. He goes, well, the other cheaper ones are $15. I was like, fine. He gives me the $15 socks. I try on the sneakers. I was like, I can't buy these. Too ugly. I was like, I can't. And you should see how ugly the sneakers I'm wearing, by the way. That's how fucked up my taste is. Anyway, so I'm like, fuck this. And I leave. Fucking socks, right? I leave. I have this guy looking for other shoes online. I was like, how long is it going to take you to order those shoes? He's like, a week. I was like, I'll be back. It's like, I'm getting out of here. And like, he's like, this fucking methadone guy is scamming me. And I was like, I gotta get out of here. I walk across the street wearing the socks. And I was like, I just stole
Oh my
$15
gosh.
socks from this store. But I was like, and I was like excited. It's like $15. I was like, fuck that. And I went back and I took them off my feet and I gave it to him. No, I'm just kidding. I went back and I said, let me pay for the socks. And the guy, he's like, oh my God, I really appreciate you paying. I was like, dude, I'm not going to fucking steal the socks. But it's funny, right? Isn't that funny?
Man, there's so much more conversation that needs to be had
Yes,
here.
sir. Isn't that funny, though?
Yeah. I got like 30 more stories for you.
Yeah.
But I think that's important. I think that's important, that mechanism. What is recovery without it?
I don't know. Till next time.
Well, we want to thank you for having us out here, man. And 0.0 Studios is pretty dope out here. I know we had some New York sirens in the microphone a couple of times.
Makes it
gives it authentic.
legit, yeah.
It's the authenticity.
Really, really, really appreciate you guys having me on. People should check out our podcast, Dopey. And I wish we had longer time. What time is it?
Yeah, we're at time. I know you wanted to get up out of here about 5.
Yeah, I got to get on the train or my wife will fucking kill me.
We can't have
we
that.
want you alive.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, but we will have plenty of opportunity to have you back on, and maybe we can pop on your show and share some stories or whatever we're up for.
All right, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, we're really grateful. It's so cool to meet you in person and to
100%.
be here. And yeah, it's been really, really fun. So appreciate you so much.
Thanks.
Till next time.
Hey, everybody, it's Liz again. Thank you so much for joining us for that really special episode with Dave from the Dopey Podcast. Bryce and I are always so excited whenever we get to do a podcast in person, and to be able to do that with Dave in New York, a fellow podcaster, a fellow recovery advocate, was just a really incredible experience, and we couldn't be more grateful. So be sure that you follow Dave, find the Dopey Podcast wherever you get podcasts. He also has a membership site and lots of ways that you can get more involved in the work that he does in the community that is just one of the coolest communities out there. We're really pumped to be able to connect the Phoenix community with Dopey Nation. So thank you again for being on our show, Dave. We're so excited to have this friendship with you and do this work alongside you. Thank you for listening. As always, it is just such an honor to have you here with us. We wouldn't be able to do this without you, and we sure wouldn't want to. And be sure that you subscribe. It makes such a difference if you subscribe. That way you don't miss a single episode. And of course, please come and talk to us in the Phoenix app. If you haven't already downloaded it, hop into the podcast group and let us know what you think. Let us know who else you want us to talk to, and let us know if you check out Dave's podcast, because he's a really fun person with a really, really good heart and is doing a lot for the recovery movement. So thanks for being here. So grateful for you. We'll see you next time.